Hello and welcome to the Ghost FX Discipline Series Day 3 out of 10. Please sit back, relax and grab your pen and paper to take notes. Today our topic is about stop losses and why you should stop moving them. Let's get started. Stop moving your stop loss. It sounds simple, but this single habit is responsible for destroying more trading accounts than almost anything else beginners do. Because the moment a trader enters a position and the market moves slightly against them, the brain begins searching for a way to avoid being wrong, and instead of accepting the planned risk the trader originally agreed to, they start negotiating with the market, telling themselves the move is temporary, telling themselves price will come back, telling themselves the market just needs a little more room to breathe, and that is where discipline begins to collapse, because the stop loss was never meant to be a suggestion, it was meant to be a rule that protects the account when the trade idea is invalidated. But when traders move their stop loss farther away, they are no longer managing risk, they are simply delaying the loss while allowing the damage to grow larger and larger. And the irony is that most traders do not realize they are sabotaging themselves. In the moment, because emotionally it feels logical to give the trade more room, it feels logical to believe price will return, but trading is not about what feels logical emotionally, it is about what is logically correct based on structure and probability. And when a stop loss is placed properly, it is placed in a location where the trade idea is no longer valid, meaning if price reaches that point, the setup that justified the trade has already failed, and the professional response to that situation is not to argue with the market but to accept the loss and move on to the next opportunity. Because losses are not the enemy in trading, uncontrolled losses are the enemy. And this is one of the most important mindset shifts traders must understand early in their journey, because the market does not reward stubbornness, it rewards discipline, and discipline means respecting the rules you created before entering the trade when emotions were calm and decisions were rational, not rewriting those rules once money is on the line and fear begins influencing judgment, because the moment money is involved, the brain becomes extremely good at creating excuses, it becomes extremely good at justifying why the stop loss should be moved. And this is exactly how a small plan loss that might have been $50 suddenly becomes $200 or $500 or even an account-blowing loss simply because the trader refused to respect the boundary they originally set. And when this behavior repeats over time, it becomes a pattern where traders rarely take small losses but frequently take massive ones, which completely destroys the mathematical foundation required to survive in trading long-term. Because even a strategy with a strong win rate cannot overcome the damage caused by oversized losses that occur when stop losses are ignored or moved emotionally, and this is why disciplined traders understand something beginners struggle to accept, which is that being wrong is part of the game. There is no strategy in existence that wins every trade, there is no analysis that predicts every movement perfectly, and the moment a trader accepts that reality, they gain a massive advantage because they stop trying to avoid losses and start focusing on controlling them, and controlling losses is exactly what the stop loss is designed to do. It is the protective barrier that prevents a single mistake from turning into a catastrophic event for the account. But that protection only works if the trader respects it, and respect means accepting the outcome when the stop loss is hit without chasing the market, without revenge trading, and without immediately trying to win the money back through emotional decisions, because one of the biggest traps traders fall into is the belief that a loss must be corrected immediately, which often leads to entering another impulsive trade with poor structure simply to erase the previous loss, and that cycle of emotional decision-making quickly spirals into a situation where the trader is no longer trading a system, they are trading their emotions, and emotions are one of the most expensive indicators in the market because they convince traders to act when patience would have protected them, and this is why professionals approach stop losses differently than beginners, because they do not view a stop loss as failure, they view it as confirmation that the trade idea did not work and the risk management system worked exactly the way it was supposed to, and that difference in perspective completely changes how traders behave during losing trades, because disciplined traders expect losses as part of the process and they size their positions accordingly so that a loss does not create panic, while beginners often risk too much money on a single trade, which makes accepting the loss psychologically painful and increases the temptation to move the stop loss farther away hoping the market will save them. But the market does not care about hope, the market does not care about personal opinions, and it certainly does not care about where a trader wishes price would go. The market simply moves based on supply and demand and the collective actions of millions of participants, and when traders understand that reality, they begin to approach stop losses as a necessary tool rather than an obstacle, because every professional trader knows that protecting the account is the number one priority. Without capital, there is no opportunity to trade tomorrow. And the purpose of discipline is to ensure that no single trade has the power to eliminate that opportunity, which is why disciplined traders define their stop loss before entering the trade rather than during the trade, because decisions made before entry are rational while decisions made after entry are emotional, and that difference matters more than most beginners realize. Because once a trade is active, the trader is no longer neutral, they are financially involved, and the mind becomes biased toward protecting the position even when the market is clearly proving the idea wrong, and this is why strict rules must exist, because rules remove the need for emotional decision making in the heat of the moment, and when those rules include respecting the stop loss no matter what, the trader begins building the consistency required to survive long enough to develop real skill. And consistency is the true foundation of profitable trading, because without consistency even a good strategy cannot produce reliable results, and moving the stop loss destroys consistency. Because it changes the risk profile of every trade randomly depending on how the trader feels in that moment, which makes performance impossible to measure accurately and impossible to improve systematically. But when the stop loss is respected, every trade follows the same risk structure, which allows traders to review their results objectively, learn from mistakes, and refine their approach over time. And that process of structured learning is what separates traders who eventually become profitable from those who remain stuck in a cycle of emotional decision making. Because profitability in trading is rarely about discovering some secret strategy that nobody else knows, it is usually about mastering the simple disciplines that most people refuse to follow consistently, and respecting the stop loss is one of the most important of those disciplines. Because the stop loss is not just a technical tool on the chart, it is a commitment to risk management, a commitment to protecting capital, and a commitment to treating trading as a structured process rather than a gamble driven by hope and fear. And when traders finally embrace that mindset, something powerful begins to happen, because the pressure of being right on every trade disappears, the fear of losses becomes manageable, and trading begins to feel less like an emotional roller coaster and more like a controlled process where each trade is simply one small event within a much larger statistical sample, and that is the perspective professionals operate from, because they understand that success in trading is not determined by a single trade or even a single day. It is determined by the ability to execute the same disciplined behavior repeatedly over hundreds and thousands of trades, and that behavior starts with respecting the stop loss every single time without exception. Because discipline does not exist when it is convenient, it only exists when it is followed, even when it is uncomfortable, and learning to accept small controlled losses today is what allows traders to remain in the game long enough to capture the large moves that make trading worthwhile, and that is why the rule is simple but powerful. Place your stop loss where the trade idea becomes invalid, accept the outcome if price reaches it, and move forward without negotiation. Because the traders who master that level of discipline are the ones who eventually separate themselves from the thousands of people who quit trading every year after discovering that the market punishes emotional decision making far more than it punishes being wrong. That wraps up day 3. If you like this and want more, please hit that like and follow button and don't miss out on day 4.